think this episode really made clear some other stuff is going on.
This episode lays that out. She knew from the very beginning, and there's such sad moments.
This baby is a very important part of the equation. I have a theory about the baby's place.
I like where this theory is going, and it makes me theorize a little bit too. Today, Sterling and I are talking about the thrilling science fiction mystery Paradise, Season 2, Episode 4, A Holy Charge. So spoilers are ahead.
We're getting into that beautifully tragic story about Annie and her baby,
deciding whether we can trust Sinatra or not,
and getting into theories around the interesting shots and nosebleeds we've been seeing so much of recently.
And I just want to give a special shout out to our channel members. We thank you for your continued support. We truly could not do this without you.
Now, let's get into the episode. What do you think of this one?
I'm finally glad to get to finally talk about this show. I like this show a lot. I think it's very interesting. It kind of has a little bit of what other shows like Silo have, or maybe I know that you and I have talked about this, where it's a little bit like Lost with the multiple stories that are going
with the flashbacks and the
flash sideways kind of
right.
It's
and
I think it's a cool way to tell story. I know that you and I have talked about it, and it's maybe not the best way to tell a story, but I do think it can break up different ways of telling a story. I think this show, from season 1 to season 2, has been very different, and I like that. I like that it's not the same. I know.
Season 1, it kind of felt like, not like there were no more surprises, but just kind of like it was like, what you see is what you get. You know, we surprised you with some things, and now we're going to go into the outside, and we're just going to have some more surprising moments, but not necessarily like foundational surprises for the show itself.
Sure.
And while you were busy, Dawn and I already kind of like theorize about some of that, because I think we got teased that, but I think even for average viewers that aren't doing double watches and aren't talking to people about what's going on, I think this episode really made clear some other stuff is going on.
Some other stuff is going on. I agree. I do think that with Silo was also what you see, what you get. It didn't have a lot of rewatch value. I do think that this show has a great rewatch potential, and especially with things like the breath mint comment in the last episode.
Yeah.
And the CD mix of the needle drops in the first season. There is a lot you can get from just watching it a second time. Also, this episode specifically, a rewatch, the way that the episode ends, there is that Annie dies after giving birth, right? Or it doesn't end that way, but three-quarters of the episode.
Which was very surprising for me.
Very surprising. This is a well-known
major actress.
Yeah. To introduce her first episode and then kill her off by episode 4, and she wasn't even in 2 of the other episodes. She was pretty much in 2 episodes and then gone. I thought that was pretty shocking. But this episode, from the beginning, lays that out, that she doesn't expect to survive her child being born. And I did not pick up that on the first view. It took the second view to see that she knows.
Right.
The whole reason she wants to get to Colorado is so that she can give this baby to Link. And she knew from the very beginning. And there's such sad moments that when Xavier is telling her about the joy that this child brings, and you see her emotion that she is having, knowing that she's not, and she plays it off like, oh, she's crying about soccer isn't real, like the world is fucked, but it's more about her knowing that she's not going to survive this. It's heartbreaking.
it's heartbreaking enough the first time because they do a really good roller coaster. I think having these two storylines happening at the same time does an interesting thing because the flashback storyline of the first person to give birth in the bunker brings up that thing of like, oh no, something bad could happen, which then makes you worry that something bad is going to happen in our current timeline. And then as the two stories progress, you see that, oh, she can make it through it, which then kind of makes you feel like, okay, we're probably good over here. And then you end up getting what ends up happening. And it's quite the roller coaster that they put you through on with these two storylines. And then, like you said, with that extra context of going back through it and realizing it's not just knowing what's coming up. It's exactly what you said of getting this new information that she knew all along and the steps she takes, when she's writing that out in crayons, like she knows that she's not going to be able to say that to her child.
She knew that. There's the part where she's taking her own blood pressure and she looks worried. She knew that this was going to happen. She knew that she wasn't going to meet her baby. Maybe she thought she had more time before the baby would be born. She could get to Colorado. Tell Link doesn't, but when she knew the baby was coming, she took the steps to write the note. She absolutely knew. And it's devastating. And I teared up a little bit in this episode.
Yeah.
This was, and see, this is why I think that this show is good. If a show can make me feel something, it's a good show. And I was really emotional just because of the juxtaposition of these two scenes where we see Xavier being the guard for watching Cal go through getting this woman to get through her birth, and then Xavier having to be that person to get her through the birth. That just such good television. I think that this was a great episode. So
I hypothesized in the last episode that we might be dealing with the multiverse because the one doctor that was killed by Billy, or a scientist, whatever he was, that was killed by Billy, he was dealing with something with like the quantum realm, and there was weird stuff going on. I think he dealt with quantum entanglement, which I theorize could explain why people that weren't connected were dealing with these nosebleeds. It has something to do with entanglement. And I think that this baby is a very important part of the equation. I have a theory about the baby's place. And I think that not only is the baby important, but possibly, unfortunately, Annie's death might be important. And that's because it seems to me like the scientist potentially had an idea of what was going on and understood that Billy needed to get this technology to whatever it was, to Sinatra. But he also understood that Link maybe understood it better than anybody else and that he needed to continue forward. That's why he asked Billy to let him go. But I think that that guy's death, I think, potentially has Link on a very dark path, potentially a path of vengeance, which I don't think is a good path. And I think similar to the baby in the bunker, it was a baby of hope. I think that this baby from Graceland is going to be a baby of grace. And I think the fact that if Annie had survived, I think he potentially could have skirted taking the baby until he was done doing what he was doing, and then maybe they could come back together. Mm-hmm. But the fact that her mom died means that he is that baby's only parent. And I think that might temper him. I think that might be the thing he needs to make the right choices.
Interesting. So I like where this theory is going, and it makes me theorize a little bit too. So if he's going back to the bunker to destroy whatever was built that Sinatra wanted, and he is hell-bent on this to destroy it, he's got to kill Alex or whatever, the baby stops it, does that potentially mean that whatever Sinatra is doing, so like we've seen this version of Sinatra where she might be this really evil, vile person, and yet we've seen a lot of, and I mean evil and vile in the sense of killing people outside, not wanting to let others outside in. But then we see this version of her in multiple episodes where she was a very caring mother, very kind mother. And then we see this moment with this baby, and she tells this baby that she is going to make everything right with humanity.
In that baby's lifetime. She told the baby that he will see
real stars again.
The real stars. Yes.
And so it makes me wonder, yes, we've seen Sinatra do some really bad things, but is she bad, or is she doing it for the greater good? Is she like a Bernard character that is calculating the numbers and saying, you know, maybe killing these 4 people outside is for the greater good of all humanity? She's maybe making some trolley problems in her head.
I think that's kind of the way I view her now, is that she is somebody that is making choices so difficult that even some of the other people around her wouldn't be able to make those choices. And so she's separated that knowledge. She's making the hard decisions. She's accepting how that makes her look. You know, that it makes her look not just callous, but potentially evil. I do think that is maybe the way her character is. And it's interesting that they managed to only just now kind of start to, I mean, they only just now kind of started to show this. As you mentioned, season 1, you do see that she was a loving parent with a loving family, but it also potentially seemed like maybe when she lost her kid, that maybe that's when that died. And so it could have been like from that point on was her evil arc.
Well, I don't even know if I would agree with that, because we do see after her kid dies, she goes to the talk and he says, climate change is happening, everybody's going to die. And she does seem genuinely concerned of wanting to make an impact and fix this issue. You know, it doesn't seem like she's like, oh, I need to protect my family and myself and build a bunker for just us. It's, I want to keep humanity safe, and this is the only way I can do it. And I'm going to stop at nothing to get it done. So it's weird, because I'm very torn with her as a character. I love her actress, but she seems so callous sometimes, but I think she has to be for these once in a lifetime events that are taking place. And she's convinced that she's the only one that knows how to fix it.
Right. And I think that she's also, because she has such a big goal that she's working for as far as saving billions, and the others don't know that there is a second part to saving billions, that she has a lot of work on her plate, you know, so that makes her busier than everybody else and makes her seem callous. You know, we saw for a moment what looked like that kind of callous aspect where Cal comes to her and says, the first baby's going to be born down here. This is important. This is a huge moment of hope. And her response is like, I told you, I'm busy.
Yeah.
And so it gives that impression that she is callous, but understanding, one, potentially what she's working towards, and then 2, the fact that she does end up coming around even with all of that work. It does potentially give you some new light as far as the type of person that she is.
I mean, she showed up to the birth, she made it to the birth, and then she personally went to see the baby, bring a gift. I do think that whole scene with her really humanized her, even with everything that's going on. Bringing her a gift, telling her if you ever need anything. The mother says, I haven't slept. She's like, I'll hold your baby for you. Go sleep for an hour or two. I think really made this character who seems so vile, so human. And I don't think she is the like big antagonist. Like, yeah, she's done antagonizing things, but I don't feel like she's the big antagonist of the show, even though she seems that way. At least first season.
I think I agree with you. And I think these scenes with the babies, especially the one with the underground baby, it reminded me of Silo season 2. Super minor spoiler. So if you haven't seen Silo, this really isn't going to ruin anything for you. There's just a great line in there when somebody underground is worrying about like what kind of world they might be bringing a baby into and whether or not they should. And Dr. Nichols says that having a baby is a venture of hope. And he even mentioned that, you know, these trees that are here were planted by people that would never sit under the shadows of them or under the shade of them. You know, Annie is worried about the state of the world. You know, would they play soccer? And even when he points out that they will play soccer, she kind of looks at the negative side. But I do think that life kind of naturally has hope built into it. I think that, you know,
Sure.
I think that to a certain extent, obviously it's not eradicated, but I think that despair is less likely to continue on. It like genetically. It's the kind of thing that like even animals that are hopeful, that are willing to like keep trying even in very difficult situations, are more likely to pass on their genes. And so I think this show has not focused too much on the like really terrible side of the apocalypse. I think a lot of other shows spend a lot of time kind of going into what people would do again, like what governments would do to people, what other bad people would do to people. And for me, this has been a little bit more kind of like a hopeful aspect. You know, even this episode teased you with the idea of the people that passed might be those bad people.
Yeah.
And then it turns out that they're trying to live their own life. They're also a little bit distrustful of outsiders, which is why they didn't say anything. But in the end, they jumped in to help out.
Yeah. I love that messaging. I do, you know, we do see a lot of when the world is post-apocalyptic, you can't trust people. I know that we watched Station 11, and I think it kind of has a good job showing trust of people, even though you can see there's different factions, like from the people at the airport to the traveling circus, that might have a little bit of distrust.
Mm-hmm.
But most of the time you see zombie movies or it's very much dog eat dog. The Road. I don't know if you've seen The Road with Viggo Mortensen. That one is a very bleak outlook on post-apocalyptic life. Children of Men is a very post-apocalyptic. Like, we have all of these stories where humans become the villains, and I think that this message that Xavier Collins had about people, they're just people. We're gonna give them trust, give them respect, and that'll show through. Like, and I think that the message of saying to the baby, which I bet the baby's going to be named Hope. Fun fact.
I'm betting it's going to be named Grace.
Maybe.
Coming from Graceland.
Or maybe. But the baby to be raised and not be fearful of people and to not be distrusting. And Annie was very distrusting of Link and their group, even though they were very kind people. And I think that's a good message, because I think that if for some reason humanity found itself in a post-apocalyptic world, whatever that may look like, I think people would band together, and I think people would inherently take care of each other. There might be a little bit of wariness and distrust at first, but I do believe humanity has shown time and time again, we band together, we help each other, we build communities, we take care of each other. And that's what I would want to believe would happen.
I also think it helps set this show apart, that it's not your typical show like that, because we've mentioned parallels with Silo a few times, and yet it doesn't feel like a rehash of Silo. We've mentioned parallels with other things, and it's hard not to parallel things when you're in the same genre.
Sure.
But it by no means feels like a cheap copy, like even if I don't necessarily love it as much as some of the other ones, like I love Silo, I don't think it's as good as Silo. Even if it doesn't necessarily quite stand up to those, for me, it never feels like just like a cheap copy. It feels like it's very much doing its own thing, and I really appreciate that. And it's taken some very bold choices. I loved the first 3 episodes of this season, that bold choice to have them be so different.
Yeah.
Each one told its own story. They were cool stories in and of themselves. It made you wonder like how they connected. If I had one complaint, it would be like, release them a week apart so I could think about them. Like, they were so good. I would have liked time.
I didn't need to know every 3 sides of the story instantly. Let it breathe. Let it breathe.
Yes. And you can make the argument of, well, you don't have to watch them right away. You could spend time between rewatching them, but there's 2 problems with that. One is your spoiler problem. And then problem number 2 is that it is my job to watch these and get out discussions about them. And if I wait too long and I get out episode 3 discussion by the time 4 has come out, nobody cares about that. So, unfortunately, I need to keep watching them. And I would have loved for there to be a moment to just digest these stories, because I do think they were really good stories.
I agree. The first episode I thought was I put on the wrong show, because it didn't make sense. It didn't look like I was watching something related to Paradise.
Yeah.
And I think that
you were like, I need Sterling in my life, and not the other. I need the better Sterling.
The better Sterling K. Brown. I needed him. He is phenomenal.
He is phenomenal.
He is so good in this. And just, man. Okay, speaking of Xavier, something I thought about.
Okay.
So, I don't know when you watched the first season of Paradise, how recent it was.
It was around it coming out. I think Dawn and I started watching it as the show was wrapping up.
Okay. So I powered through it recently so I could catch up for season 2. And one thing I noticed that makes this baby going to Xavier more powerful, like a powerful punch.
Yeah.
When everything is going down, the super volcano has gone off, they're in the White House, very tense moment of a lot of panic. Some people are not going to the safety of the bunker. And one of the people, I forget what relation she had, she was like somebody very close to the president. Yeah. And didn't know what was going on, didn't know about going to Olympus, and was saying to Xavier, I don't care about me anymore. Just please take care of my kid. Like, make sure he gets there.
Yeah.
And Xavier couldn't do that for her because everything was hitting the fan. They had to go. That was not part of the plan. He literally could not save that child. And now he has been tasked by Annie. It's like a bit of a redemption. He gets to redeem himself for not being able to be there. And especially back then when it was all about what Cal and Sinatra were setting up, and he had really no say, and he's finally gone against the grain, and now he's out in the real world, and now he has a chance to redeem himself. He has the potential to save this baby. I thought that was a great character moment for Xavier. God, that just gets me. That was so sad, this episode.
I loved it. I think they're off to a great start. I'm so excited for the next 6 episodes, and I'm so excited to see when they finally get to what they are teasing. Is that something that we get around the midway point? Is that something we don't get until the end? And I'm really surprised that they, just kind of based off my impression of season 1, that they had more up their sleeve.
So question, are we getting 10 episodes this season? Because last season was 8 episodes.
I think it's just 8 episodes.
Oh, man. That means we're halfway through, and
we're already halfway through. Only
I
2
can't
weeks
handle
in.
this. This is crazy.
We're halfway through. Yeah.
See, that's why it needs to be every...
It needs, yes. First episode was great. It would have been phenomenal.
Yes.
And it ended on a great cliffhanger of like, we do see that it connects back.
Yes.
So that would have been perfectly fine.
I agree. I think they made a mistake for releasing. And the second episode was also a great episode because it showed what was happening to Xavier.
Yep.
And the third episode could have came out third. We go back to the bunker. We're finally getting a little catch up what's happening there. And then fourth, the culmination of the first 2 episodes. This with a side-by-side going on of the bunker. I think that that's great. So part of me kind of hopes that you're right about this time travel / multiverse. I know it's been overdone, but it would be so interesting for something that is so... doesn't seem like it would be this. Like, we had a whole first season that has no mention of time travel, no mention of parallel universe. But why I'm excited is I think it could bring back characters that died that I really enjoyed. And it's nice that we still get these characters like Billy and Cal. Like, I think that that is very cool that there is a way to get them and get more context about who they are and the greater story that is being told, which is cool. But if there is time travel or parallel universe, whatever.
If it's the multiverse, like I think, then we get them back, but it's not actually them.
Right,
which means there can be there can be subtle differences that you don't even notice right away, or there can be huge differences that are impossible not to see.
And there could be implications with that, and potentially, I mean, this is also a harebrained theory. There could be clones, and that's why they're bleeding. I don't really have a connection to that.
Okay.
We were talking about quantum, and so I don't think that is. Yeah. But it does, with the whole nosebleeds, the weird visual shifting that they do sometimes, where it's this like blurry effect that's happened more than once. And
they've been doing it since season 1, episode 1.
No, I know.
They've been doing the split visual where they have, what looks like a lens with like a crack in it, or with like 2 different pieces of glass that have like different thicknesses, so they refract light differently, and like that glass moves so it changes where that kind of like refraction is. Or similar to that, playing with multiple images of the same person, where it's like a lot of mirrors. We saw from episode 1, the staircase in the White House going up to the 2nd floor was somewhat circular with multiple mirrors around it. So you would see the same person in 4 mirrors in addition to them being on the staircase.
Oh my God. So, they told us from episode 1.
They were hinting at something from episode 1.
But this whole thing with Xavier seeing the future, and he knows it's the future. He's like, I'm seeing something that hasn't happened
He knows
yet.
that I think it seems real enough that he knows it's a memory, not like a dream. You know, there's none of that funkiness of a dream where things don't make sense when you try and describe them.
Sure.
So I think it has like the reality of a memory, but he also knows that it doesn't fit with any timeline he understands. He's like, I haven't actually been down that hall. I haven't actually seen that guy. I don't know where, like, I don't know his name. I don't know anything else about him. Somehow I have seen him in front of me.
But I feel like with that, he's so quick to be, I saw something that hasn't happened yet, you know?
He might have caught a reflection of himself in the mirror, because when we saw him in it, he had the beard, and that's like working with the Secret Service. He wasn't.
Oh,
he wasn't
Xavier
like
had
that.
The beard.
Xavier had the beard. That's what I'm saying. Xavier was. So I think Xavier might have known, like, blah, I saw myself in the mirror, and that's not a me I've ever been.
Right, but I mean, still, if you think about the world you live in. If you've ever had just like deja vu or a dream of something, which you could explain it in so many different ways. And even Annie shrugs it off and says, like, you had a concussion. You were concussed. You could be seeing whatever. But he's so sure. He was like, I'm seeing something that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah. Well, he knows that he had that before the concussion. It happened on the plane before the crash, and he got a bloody nose around the same time. He might have like felt his head hurt or something like that, because it seemed like Link had something similar happen where he got kind of a headache and his nose started to bleed, and so I think there are other clues that this is not a normal memory. But it's tough to talk about them with other people because you sound crazy.
Right.
And especially to somebody in the medical profession, after you've been in an accident, it's easy for them to say, you were in an accident.
Now, do you think that this is related to he is speaking to the chemistry teacher, and he says that, you know, Annie talks to him about being afraid of what the child is being born into, the storms, how they're going to get worse. The last episode, we heard the climate scientists, you know, be like, even the people that survive, things will go back to normal, and they're going to wish they died in the first wave.
Yeah.
Which makes me believe we're going to see something bigger. And then we even see Xavier walk outside in Graceland and looking at that storm himself. As he's explaining, he's been thinking about them a lot.
Yeah.
Do you think he can see these storms coming, like a premonition almost? Or do you think, what are your thoughts on his view of these storms, what these storms mean for everybody else?
I wondered about that because I saw that he was in that thing where he was saying, you know, I've been thinking about it. And I didn't know if that was him visualizing it or if it's him living it and not being able to explain, like, this is another one of my future memories, and I just can't explain these because it makes me sound crazy. I don't know. I do think that they're not just going to tease this out and we're probably going to see one of these storms.
Mm-hmm. Probably by the end of the season, we'll see one of these storms.
Yes.
Now, so we saw Xavier get a bloody nose. We've seen several people get bloody noses in this. Xavier has had this future vision, seems connected to this moment that's going to happen with Link and possibly this entanglement thing. My question is, Billy got a bloody nose.
Yeah.
Does that mean he's entangled in this?
I think he is. So my original thought was like that maybe it had to do with if it was like multiverses, it was like maybe once a door to somebody else in a multiverse is opened up, that maybe it kind of like connects them or something along those lines. it seems like there's a connection between these people. And Annie actually voiced over. This is the note that she wrote for her child. She said, "There are good people in this world. There always have been, and there always will be. I trust that you've become one of them. I trust that love travels across death, across time, that it bridges impossible distances and binds people who have never known each other." And it does seem like people are tied across time and distance. I think at least those three people we've seen, Xavier, Link, and Billy.
See, and this is, I come back to, it feels like Lost, where there's these group of characters that are set off in motion to this random things that also has time travel. Fun fact.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, where were the people in Lost? Where were they?
Purgatory?
Nope. Where were they first?
Spoiler for anybody.
That's fine. It's over 20 years old. No, think about where were they when they first started the show?
On a plane.
Nope.
I don't know.
An island.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Which could be like a paradise. And the bunker itself is like its own little island.
Yeah. Yeah.
This gives me very Lost vibes, and I'm here for it because I think Lost was a great show. And this show is doing similar things that made Lost a great show.
I think that it is not every episode bringing up two new questions but only answering one question so that you just pile on more questions, which is appreciated because I do think that started to wear on me over time with Lost because it did start to seem like they weren't going to answer all the questions in Lost.
Sure. And they don't answer all the questions.
It also started to feel like they didn't actually know the answers to the questions.
Right. Yes.
And that they were just kind of like figuring it out as they went along.
Well, that's why I think this show is doing it better. And
yes, because it's not just like hitting you with that deluge of questions. Like I legitimately didn't even know that there were more questions to ask. At the end of the first season, we know who the killer is. That was the big question. We already knew we were underground. There's always the question of like real alliances, like maybe somebody else is a mole, maybe somebody is secretly working for somebody else. Like I thought that there'd be those kind of things where we could see people kind of like switch sides because they were secretly doing something else, but those aren't like real secrets.
Sure.
And I thought we kind of had our answers.
Yeah.
And it turns out that they had more that they were hiding. And you can clearly see that they set that up season 1, episode 1 without throwing it in your face.
Yeah. And I think another benefit that this show has over Lost is Lost also had like 15 characters that would get flashbacks. And yes, they might have been important to the story, but all of these flashbacks are between a handful of people. It's Xavier, Cal, Samantha, Billy, and that's telling the story. I'm sure at some point this season we'll get a Jane flashback of how she got to where she was.
I've wondered if we're going to humanize her or if she's going to remain the anomaly. I have a feeling that she will get humanized.
See, I don't necessarily know if she'll get humanized, but maybe an explanation to why she is the way she is.
Just context.
Yeah, just context.
I think that to a certain extent helps humanize that because it's
true.
She's a bit of a sociopath, right? And it's if we could get a little something to explain that, it might make her make a little more sense. Even if we don't like her, we could at least kind of get her a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, final question.
Okay.
What, if any, theories, predictions do you have about Xavier's wife and where she's at?
I have no theories about his wife and where she's... I mean, I know that I know she's going to be integral to the story. It's not just that he's trying to find her, but she studied something mushrooms, something, which seems like an oddly specific thing to bring up and not have it have some relevance down the road. Mm-hmm. So it seems like she is going to have an integral part in the story beyond just, he's like, I gotta find my wife. Yeah. I don't know what though.
I'm hoping there's not just a MacGuffin scene of, oh, she got captured by some raiders. We gotta go just spend an episode getting her back. Yeah, it's just a filler, which I mean could be interesting, could not be, but you know, ultimately I want him to just get her back to Colorado because I mean, there's a lot going on over there.
Yeah,
that is scary.
I'm not gonna. This is not for the video. I think that horse potentially also knew the future because it was like, nay, we're not leaving yet.
I didn't smell the baby yet. And now I smell the baby. And now I'm like, oh, Annie's here. All right, let's go.
And then it's like, Ote.
Oh,
Ote, now we go.
Oh, okay. Yeah.